Hi, this is a sew-along tutorial for my pattern Juliet set. After making a Juliet dress in the last video, now I'm going to show you how to sew it as a set. A little different from the dress version, I designed the back of the top with cover-up button. But I'm still using an invisible zipper for the skirt closure. So when you make this set, you'll learn how to make a fully lined top and skirt, how to sew a button placket, sew a button loop, and many other things. And you can get this 2-in-1 Juliet pattern in the description box down below. So let's begin. Here I've cut all the pieces needed for this project, and I've gone ahead and interfaced only the main fabric of the bodice. This is what it looks like now. Now I'll work with the knot type piece for the back. I fold it in half and sew about ½ centimeter from the folded edge. Cut the seam allowance slightly and turn it right side out. Here I'll show you how to do it with a safety pin. First, you need to clip a notch here. Then get your safety pin or bobby pin and slip at the short tunnel. Next, I'm going to push the safety pin into the long tunnel and pull and push and pull and push it inside out so it comes out to the other end. Take your time and do it slowly. After that, you'll need to give it a nice press. Moving on to the bodice, I'll sew along here, and this is what it looks like after I sew. Now I will clip the bust curve area to relax the princess seam. For the back, I'm placing the center piece to the side back piece and sew along here. Now I'm joining the back to the front and the shoulder and press open all the seams. Then I've gone ahead and do the same to the lining pieces. Now it's time to add the knot ties at the back notch like so, and stay stitched in place. Lay the lining on top of the main fabric and sew along the edge, but make sure to match all the seam. Now I'm clipping a notch at every corner to eliminate the bulk. And clip the curve shape at the neckline so it creates smooth outer edge after we turn it right side out later. After I'm done clipping, I understitch along the neckline so it will stay in place and not rolling out when being worn. Next, I will join the back and the front at the side seam. Lay the back on top of each corresponding front bodice and stitch. Then I do the same for the lining and press open the seam allowance. Put aside the bodice for now. Here is the button placket piece. I interface the button placket like so, then fold it in half and stitch along the short edge. After that, turn it right side out, push out the corners, and give it a good press. For the button loop, I will make it as the knot tie piece. The only difference is I made it using a bias strip fabric, so it will have a slight stretch to insert the button. After I turn the strip right side out, I cut the strip into 5 even pieces by 6 cm long. On the right side of the bodice, I mark 1 cm seam allowance above the hemline. I place the loop equally from the upper bodice to the mark and stay stitch it in place. Now that I've sewn all the loops, I sandwich it with the lining and sew at the center back seam. Here's the button placket that will be sewn on the left side of the bodice. Lay the button placket on the center back bodice like so, and stay stitch it in place. After that, sandwich it with the lining and stitch at the center back. With right side of the body still facing each other, stitch along the waistline and cut at each corner to eliminate the bulk. After that, turn the bodice right side out through one of the armhole opening. Now we need to give it a nice press, especially at the waistline. Here, I've done top stitching at the center back bodice like so. And I'm going to understitch the waistline here. If you find it difficult, you can do a top stitch instead. But I prefer the stitching line is hidden at the lining. I will understitch through one of the armhole opening here. Next is to assemble the sleeves to the dress. But before that, I will secure the raw edge of the sleeves with baby hem. I've gone ahead and slightly fold the edge to the wrong side about 0.3 mm and stitch very close to the edge. Now I will cut the excess fabric close to the stitching line and press. Fold one more time and stitch on top of the previous stitching line. Before attaching the sleeves, you need to stay stitch the armhole so the shell and the lining stay in place. Now working with the bodice facing up, place and pin the notch on the sleeves at the shoulder seam, right side together, and stitch around the armhole. Then you need to finish it with a serger or a small zigzag stitch. Now to finish up the top, I will mark where the button needs to be and sew the button by hand. And we are done with the bodice. Move on to the skirt. I finished the raw edge using a serger, or you can use a small zigzag stitch. Then I've gone ahead and sew all the dart for the front and the back piece of the skirt. To assemble the skirt, I'm placing the skirt right side up and lay the corresponding back piece right side facing. Now I'm going to stitch at the side seam. Then press all the seam open and also press the dart toward the center. Now I repeat those steps to the lining. I lay the lining on top of the main skirt and pin it to make sure the side seam line up. Then I sew it along the waistline, but leave 2.5 cm unsewn at the center back to install the zipper later. I also understitch at the waistline to make the lining stay in place. Now I pin the center back seam together, but only for the shell fabric. 23 cm from the waistline down. This mark will be the zipper end point. Now I will stitch a basting stitch from the waistline down to the mark and do a back stitch and continue with a regular stitching line. Now press the seam allowance open, then align the zipper teeth opening to the center back seam. Next, I'm pinning and hand baste the zipper to the seam allowance to secure it. Here, I'm removing the previous basting stitch. Then unzip the zipper all the way to the end. Sew the zipper from the upper bodice to the mark we made earlier. Try to stitch as close as you can to the zipper teeth. After stitching on both sides, you will have something that looks like this. And we are done with the zipper. I also line up the center back of the lining together and mark 23 cm from the waistline down again. This mark will also be the invisible zipper end point from the inside garment. Then I continue to pin and stitch from the mark down to the hem and press open all the seams. Here you can see if I unzip the zipper, the lining is still unattached and the seam allowance is still showing. I will finish the center back seam allowance here by sandwich it with the lining. To do so, I turn the skirt wrong side out and place the center back lining on top of each corresponding main fabric and stitch as far as I can for both sides. I also sew this gap too. The last step is to finish the skirt hem by folding over twice and stitch. And we are done! See you again in the next tutorial. Bye bye!